Hello, welcome to Lore Master's Lair. I'm your Lore Master, here today continuing our journey into Tian Xia. One monster which has become known to be associated with these lands is the Kaiju, especially around the Solomei jungles. And considering we have two Beastiaries, one back matter, and a chapter in a Lost Omens book which deal with these creatures, let's take today to lay everything we know out. Kaiju are all creatures whose size is unimaginable, who fighting against them is like fighting against a storm, whose existence has been since before civilization and will continue long after civilization. Are they the wrath of nature, or are they mindless destruction? No one can say. The fact that they are many times not the instigator, but instead triggered by settlers who do not know better might speak volumes. But regardless, these creatures find themselves with their domains far and wide, it only seeming the inner sea region is free of one of these threats looming over their heads. We start with the big one, Mageru, the king of the Kaiju. This towering dinosaur-like, not Godzilla, is known for being one of the most active of the Kaiju. There being various times over recorded history of it attacking coastal sediments. It also has a long history getting into fights with other Kaiju, causing widespread destruction across various lands. However, the beast also has a known love for music, and many have learned ways to use music to direct the beast away from civilization, or sometimes to civilization. And in the other corner, the eternal rival of Mageru, we have Volcalops. This creature is a three-headed serpent whose main focus is the hunting and killing of other Kaiju, which makes him an ally of civilization, right? Well, let's not jump the gun. The thrice-headed fiend is one of the Kaiju who is actually evil, and will raise the battlegrounds where he faces others. Not only that, he takes requests, welcoming cultists or those who have hatred for a particular city into his lair to air their grievances and give him the next target for his wrath. Another Kaiju common enough where we have received information on it in two separate places, we have Angrea, the Forever Storm. Resembling a flying reptile of unknown species with two heads, the creature flies occasionally through the skies of Tian Xia, though her home is an unnamed island not far to the east. She will fly out if anything potentially threatens her home, especially if that thing is Mageru, the two kind of hate each other with a passion. Another bird you probably want to stay a fair distance from is Matraska the World Talon. This raptor, as in the bird, not the dinosaur, is the size of a mountain and completely covered in vegetation. This is important because while it sleeps, one cannot tell that it is a Kaiju, just that it appears as a forest. Which is why every 250 years it can create quite a commotion when it moves from its nest in the Solomei jungles to its nest in the Forest of Spirits, or back again, taking an entire jungle and usually some creatures with it. And also why there have been disastrous times when it has awakened early by fools trying to build a village on its back. A Kaiju which exists without letting us know exactly where it exists is Vogonzen, the shapeless feeder. This is a relatively new addition to the list of Kaiju, its birth being within recorded time. There was once a magical school which was consumed by the creature, its existence likely due to an unknown magical experiment within. Now she wanders the lands, and rests within swamps when she is not, with the giant slime creature finding any powerful magical source it can, and eating it. and therefore has become somewhat of a god for those who wish to see magic abolished. There was one Edo Kaiju that has been mentioned before, Shabloon, the Vortex Maw. Some say this creature resembles a cuttlefish with hundreds of tentacles. It is hard to confirm because the image most people have of this monster is a giant swirl of destruction eating their ship. In the Bartholomew Sea, there are whirlpools which sailors need to steer clear of or avoid or risk being consumed. However, the horrible twist is that there are countless number of these whirlpools. Does that mean this single creature has created every mile-wide vortex in the area? Or, more disturbingly, that there are thousands upon thousands of shabloons in existence? So we have examined plenty of creatures who live outside Tian Xia. Let's return to the continent with Ebeshra, the winged razor. Yes, another flyer, but instead of a giant dinosaur or some bird, this is an endless number of wings made of crystal. Appearing in the wall of heaven, many mistake it as a cloud, only to realize what it is by the constant furling and unfurling of its wings. The creature is said to have once been created to close a dangerous planar rift, and regardless of the truth in that, the crystals of its body have the ability to pierce dimensions, and therefore pieces of its body are highly prized items, but only one expedition to collect them has ever been successful. Over in the east, in the nation of Minkai, they periodically deal with their own kaiju, Jakabu, the eternal leviathan of the eastern sea. Appearing once a generation, this giant sky whale crosses over the Ikaku Peninsula, appearing when the sea becomes mysteriously still. Overall, it is harmless under most conditions. All they need to do is keep all lights out except for the trail of torches, pushing it across the mountain and back out to sea. As long as the whale and the monster spirits who fly around it do not get lost, there will be no issues. Now, wandering the deserts of Shenggong we have the next walking storm cloud, Yurok, the Horned Thunder. A giant rhinoceros made out of mountains. It is said by the people of the desert that the path taken by the kaiju is as predictable as the seasons. And with the seasons, Yurok generates thunderstorms which pour out across the region, with many of the greatest sticking around the beast's torso. The creature has but one rule with dealing with it. It is the tallest thing in existence. Any structure it sees larger than it will instantly be charged and reduced back to the desert sands. That said, he loves dances, and the people of Shenggong know how to alleviate his tempers. Then there is Bezrobnus, known as the Infernal Below. A giant scorpion of three tails, it lives in the deserts at the foot of the world's tallest mountain in Xianxi at least. I would have to look at other tall mountains, but anyway. The monster awakens every 273 years, possibly in connection with a comet which passed around this time. It destroys one city with no correlation between its targets, then it goes back to sleep. Of course, there are ways to awaken a monster before its appointed time, but under these situations, the target of its wrath becomes the one who is stupid enough to wake it. Not really an advisable thing to do unless you know you can distract it by making it fight another kaiju, of course. A third in the deserts of Shenggong is the centipede-like kaiju known as Zimibra. This kaiju lives beneath the continent and is said to be responsible for shaping much of the region's darklands. The beast secretes an oily substance which hardens into its armor, but can be poisonous in large amounts. Due to the location, there tends to be a rivalry between Yoak, Bezrovnis, and Zimibur, but there are also tales of the three teaming up to fight off Kaiju who are invading their territory. Now, we've had many natural disasters, but just to give you another example of how destructive Kaiju are, let's look at one even dragon spear. Igrun, the Dragon Eater. This giant lizard creature is made of thousands of strange metal plates, which dragons have found time and time again impenetrable both physically and magically. Many believe it is a construct, but regardless of its origins, it stalks the mountains of Shedmen. As if Shedmen needs another ghost story. As one might imagine, every other continent would consider the creature's presence a good thing, killing dragons and seemingly neutralizing every natural disaster which approaches it. However, in the dragon kingdoms, here they tend to keep it wandering the mountainside where it does the least harm. As we start winding down, let's leave Tian Xia and take a look north, where we can find Kimmerlian, the giant bear of the frozen north. The great bear of the frozen north, excuse me. A 400-foot tall polar bear, with fur as white as the snow, it's difficult to see this creature in its home around the world. More so when the beast has a perpetual storm which rages around her. And even more so when the creature absorbs all heat around it, flash freezing anything warm-blooded which comes within a mile of her. She spends most of her time sleeping for centuries, and keeps up north where there is only a small chance to meet her. So you should be fine as long as you stick to the path of Argon High. Now leaving the planet, next is a strange one. Yarthun the Moon Grub. Why is it called that? Because it lives on the moon. A giant blue grub is known to cause freezing mist wherever it breathes. Thankfully, it is made to live in the vacuous space, and does not need to breathe. The creature visits Galorian now and then for a few days, and then just leaves. This is one of the few kaiju which does not seem to purposely look to destroy civilizations. That said, kaijus are naturally drawn to others, and this often leads to Yarthun coming down to join a fight, or another awake kaiju interrupting her visits. And to end off, we have a kaiju which is connected to the moon, but what of kaiju of another planet? And no, not the planet that is full of kaiju, but Versus. Agmazar the Star Titan was a defender of Versus, developed to fight against any undead threats in the war against Eox, with the perfect dead man switch implanted if they should ever manage to kill it. Eventually, Versus, in its hubris, tried to take the fight directly to Eox, but the undead proved too smart and instead sent the creature careening to Galorian. In 2456 IR, the monster landed in the Beastiaries jungles, where it rampaged, killing all undead it could find. Until, of course, a battle with King Mageru. But this did not end the beast, who came back undead itself, which was just as planned, except the Mageru part. And the Beastiaries jungles is not typically full of undead, so instead the creature bides its time, raiding in a state of undeath for actual targets to come within its range, which then starts the rampage anew. Which brings us to the end of today's video, as well as month 2 of our little countdown to Tian Xia. However, we still have a few odds and ends for topics to cover, as well as one deity, but next week, an odds. and ends, and one you will probably not see coming. See you then.